Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm Paul Wellington. That gentleman is Ian Boyd. Thank you for joining us. We're excited. Football is in the air, Ian. It's not too far away. We're going to see actual football this weekend coming up. And then, of course, the Texas Longhorns are going to take on the Ohio State Buckeyes in the most important non-conference matchup in college football.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Ian. Strong start, buddy.
I didn't even know until earlier today that I had not done the math to see that like Farmageddon and all those week 0 games are imminent this week.
They are imminent. Baby, we got Sam Houston State, Western Kentucky coming too. Like, it's not just Farmageddon in Ireland. Hey, but before that, if you want... Thank you, Ian. The subtweeting is excellent. I want you guys to go to the place with the best Texas Longhorn football information. Hell, the best sports information. Ian and I had a great little argument a couple of days ago that ignited the board. It set Gen X against the millennials. But we're also about peace and harmony and love with the burnt orange and white, and that's at Inside Texas. Join now for $1. Get a full year of get Inside Texas for $1 your first week, and as a bonus, your membership includes a complimentary year to The Athletic. Pretty awesome. And if you want to go meet some of the incredible Inside Texas personalities and meet the fellow posters and subscribers on Inside Texas, we're 40 and we're a man. It's the Inside Texas 40th anniversary tour, Tuesday, August 26th in Houston, Texas. You can go to Wings. That is from 5 to 9, and that's a happy hour, and they're going to have trivia. August 27th, Dallas, the Katy Trail Icehouse, 5 p.m. happy hour. August 28th in Austin, Little Woodrow's on Burnet Road, 5 to 9 happy hour and trivia. I am sad I'm going to miss this because I would dominate the trivia, Ian. You know, one thing I also dominate, Mr. Boyd?
Writing preseason Texas publications.
That's right. You nailed it. That was the correct answer. The 2025 Longhorn Football Prospectus, 61,000 words on your favorite team, all of their opponents, and the entire SEC, including the teams we don't play, because how they do has resonance on our ability to make the playoffs, play for the SEC title, etc. By Thinking Texas Football today, you can find all the links down in the sub area, and that's Smashwords, Apple, or Amazon for the print copy. All right, Ian, we want to do a 2-week preview on this game because I promised it, I hyped it as the most important non-conference game in college football. I think that's true, not only because of the rankings and the fact that these two teams met in the semifinals last year and played a really outstanding football game, but also because of the implications for the playoff. It's amazing to say that in week 1, but this has real implications for jockeying between the Big Ten and SEC of conference dominance. It's going to have the most viewers of any game probably played in college football, maybe until November. And I think it's just going to be a hell of a football game up in Columbus. So we're going to do 2 weeks of deep dive on this. We're going to start at the 10,000-foot level. We're going to talk philosophically. And then we're going to drill down as micro as we can next week. Is that fair, Mr. Boyd?
That's the plan. Let me ask you out of the gate, do you think that Texas has more at stake potentially in this game than Ohio State?
In the sense that we maybe have more challenges on our schedule later?
I think Texas may have. If Texas loses this game, the rest of the season they're on a little bit of a knife's edge.
Yeah, we comfortably you can lose one more game if you're Texas.
Yeah.
Same for Ohio State. The difference is we probably think at Georgia is a little more threatening than at Illinois.
Yeah, I think
right.
There's a couple of games on the Texas schedule I think are more threatening than.
I would agree. I would say either team, it will be oversold. Like, oh, they're cooked. Both teams could. One team's going to lose this game. We know that for a fact. But both teams will probably still end up in the playoffs, more than likely. But I think Texas has a narrower, more hostile path to get to the playoff if they lose this game.
Ohio State, the Big Ten has expanded so that this is not exactly true, but it's still sort of true. The Big Ten always used to be called the Big Two and Little Eight. And Michigan and Ohio State would just trade off all the accolades and Rose Bowl appearances for decades. they have expanded, but they've also expanded in a way that has diluted the competition level in that conference. And so they get some insane unbalanced schedules. And none of them, I looked through all of them, all the Big Ten teams except like Michigan are protected this year.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting, Ian, is that people talk about the Big Ten plays 9 regular conference games.
Yeah.
What's an 18-team league? The SEC plays 8 in a 16-team league. Each is playing 50% of the conference slate any given year. And I think the Big Ten teams at the top, they're as good as any teams in college football, as evidenced by the last 2 national champions. What happens in the middle class and the lower class is you get some teams that are a cut down from the SEC, certainly higher than the ACC. But that is sort of the magic of the Big 12 scheduling, where they can pretend, we're playing a 9-conference rigorous schedule. But at the same time, they're getting a break because some of those games are against Purdue, Rutgers, Northwestern.
Yeah.
All right. That's the big picture of the Big Ten. Not that anybody cares, but here's something we do care about, this Ohio State matchup. And we're going to start at the very top level. Ohio State is going to be coming into this game with a new quarterback and 2 new coordinators. Do you want to talk a little bit about those coordinators and what that looks like and why Ian's kind of saying, are there 2 new coordinators? Let's start with that softball lob. Does Ohio State have a new offensive coordinator?
I think me and you have both noticed this, I think, last year, is that Ohio State got a new offensive coordinator in the playoffs last year. And the new offensive coordinator was Ryan Day, taking back over with, I think you pointed out, likely some added input from one of their young staffers.
Yes.
It was not Chip Kelly. It was, I can't remember the guy's name. But this guy that had some experience working with, I think, Norvell and some other guys. They changed up their run game a little bit. They got back to a little more of Ryan Day's normal offense, which is basically play action and 3 verticals with all NFL receivers. They do it a little differently than Sark, the way that they attack with their 3 deep receivers, but it's basically outside guys, NFL guys, and the slot receiver is always an absolute killer. Jackson Smith, Jigba, Emeka Egbuka, they expected to start for Tampa Bay this year. Now I think it's in its gains is the expectation. But I think the offense is going to be pretty familiar.
Brian Hartline is the titular head, the new OC. He's the longtime, of course, wide receivers coach for Ohio State, which, say whatever you want, I can't think of a position coach with a better recruiting and development resume than Brian Hartline. Ian and I both watched the Ohio State spring game, and independently, we were both like, I can't believe what they have at wide receiver. Not just their starters. We all know Jeremiah Smith and some of those guys, but their second team was unbelievably good. So hat tip to Brian Hartline. I think what Ian and I are tiptoeing around is we think Ryan Day is basically running this offense early in the season, even if Brian Hartline is the titular head and is supposedly the offensive coordinator.
They did it this way in the Kyle McCord year, I think. They made Hartline the offensive coordinator, and Day ended up running it. And they had a kind of supposedly a bad season. They were like 11-1, but they lost to Michigan. And so he's like, well, we're going to bring in Chip Kelly, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
I think he just ended up taking back over, and Chip Kelly's gone now.
Yep. Yeah, I think – so let me ask you this. We're not suggesting Hartline isn't capable of calling plays. He's been in that system. He knows Ryan Day backwards and forwards. But what we are suggesting is this is a co-op at best, where we think early in the year – Ryan Day is not going to put it in Brian Hartline's hands exclusively in a game that I think is such a marquee matchup.
Yeah, no way. If at all, right.
So let's talk big picture. Let's not get down deep into the scheme on the weeds of scheme or anything. Last year, Ohio State during the regular season was a zone running team predominantly.
Uh-huh.
In the 3-week break before they played Tennessee and blew them out in Columbus, they switched to gap schemes. And that was influenced by that running back coach that we talked about who had some Norvell influence, et cetera. And also, I think Day just saying, hey, zone's not working for us with this because remember, they had some significant offensive line issues and injuries.
Oh,
so
yeah.
They said, what can we go block? And then we're going to throw the ball down the field to these incredible receivers. And we've got this veteran quarterback who knows exactly what we want to do. We can joystick him from the sideline. So what can we expect? Is Ohio State now a gap running team? Are they now 3 verts and maybe mix in a stop route and a hitch? Is that what we can expect now from Ohio State? Or does Pete Kwiatkowski have to sort of start from scratch in evaluating a game plan for them?
I think you're hoping that they are the familiar Ryan Day team. Whether it's gap or zone, that they are going to be 3 verts, and if you drop everyone back, they'll run the ball. Because I don't know if that's failed them against Michigan 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
And it basically failed them against Texas last year. And it might have failed them if they didn't have that extra Will Howard quarterback run, extra gear for big moments. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that with 5'11" Julian Sayin, right?
I'll have a thought on that in a moment. But
okay,
yeah,
well, good.
Let's put a pin in that.
Okay. The scare that I've outlined is they have this tight end, Max Clare, now, who's a very different level of receiving tight end than they've normally had. And if they want to get a little more air raidy with Clare flexed out wide, or a little more like what Sark did when he needed to beat Michigan or Alabama, and he was like, I'm not going to just run the ball and bang our heads against these amazing fronts. I'm going to start spreading them around and hitting quick game out in the flats. If they do that, I think that's going to be a lot harder to prepare for, unless Sayin, isn't up for it. I think
X's and O's and game plan for this game are fascinating on both sides of the ball.
And we'll get more into it next week, obviously. But
I want to get into a game plan that you need to have for the most important financial decision that you're going to make in your life.
Oh, here we go.
It's buying a home.
This is big right now.
Isn't the home 95% of Americans their primary repository of net worth?
I think I've heard that somewhere.
You heard it right here from me. I don't even know if it's true. I just said it. But here's something that is true. Call Gabe, and you're going to get the best damn mortgage guy in the state of Texas. His number is 832-557-1095. Gabe is not limited just to the state of Texas. He is licensed in other states. And if he's not licensed, he can help you out. He knows good people in other areas. And in hell, just for giggles, he'll advise you on your mortgage, even if you live in Rhode Island. And he'll help you run circles around the mortgage guy that you're using there just because he's a Longhorn and he's a good dude. He'll just help you out, even though he's not making a dime off it. Reach him at 832-557-1095. Here's the quick message. If you currently own a home, your interest rate is 6.5% or higher. Some of you are like at 7.875 right now because of the fluctuation of interest rates. There is a unique opportunity happening right now before the Fed meets in September. Call Gabe. He could probably refi you for free. And by probably, I mean there's a 90% chance. And when I say for free, I mean $0 American dollars. So would you like to pay a lower house payment for free? Call Gabe, 832-557-1095. Ian.
That's huge.
It is huge. There's not a lot of things you get for free in this life, but we're going to give you some more free thoughts on this matchup. Is there anything more on that offense you want to cover? Because I want to talk about Will Howard and the quarterback run game.
No, I mean, that's the big picture. They're insanely talented. We hope that they are more or less what they've normally been, because at least there's a blueprint for that.
Yes. And here's an interesting fact, Ian. In a high leverage game for all the marbles, Ohio State played Notre Dame for the national title. 2 good defenses, right? Arguably, there were 3 elite defenses in college football last year: Texas, Ohio State, and Notre Dame. In that matchup, do you know how many times Will Howard and Riley Leonard ran combined quarterback run?
34.
Yeah, right around there. They were responsible for 75% of the carries in that game between both offenses. Meaning Will Howard is a very valuable constraint because of his mobility and his size. Even the thought of his quarterback run game helped constrain the rush and also helped open up some Ohio State run game and the gap schemes. Julian Sayin, you mentioned his height and his posture. He's not a big guy. He's not really built for taking hits. He is not a statue. He's got some mobility. He can move around a little in the pocket. He's not a runner. And I think that is going to free Pete Kwiatkowski to really let Colin Simmons, Trey Moore, Brad Spence, Anthony Hill, Ethan Burke, it's going to let them off the leash a little bit coming off the edge against Ohio State's two new offensive tackles, where I don't think that they feel they're going to get punished by Julian Sayin's legs for being over-eager coming off the edge.
No, I don't think so either. He's the optimistic case for him has always been something more like Bryce Young.
Yes.
Which is, I mean,
great.
They probably win if he's Bryce Young already. But but to your point, it does not present those same challenges.
Well, and one thing I think we both noted is whatever you want to say about Sayin, dude's release is lightning quick. Like the time from him seeing something and the ball getting out is instantaneous. Will Howard had a little bit of a shot put wind up. Yep. You know, it wasn't quite a Ewers elongated throw where you start at your hip and you bring the ball up and then throw it, right? But I think Sayin, I was very struck by how quickly the ball got out. I got to think that's going to be valuable against the Texas pass rush.
Yeah, well, hopefully not too valuable.
Yeah.
But
is there something we can do kind of big picture to make him hold the ball a little bit longer and feel that presence in the pocket?
Well, that's tricky, Paul, because anything you do coverage-wise has to be oriented around you cannot give up easy and obvious one-on-one shots to Jeremiah Smith and maybe not to one or two of the other guys either.
Or Max Clare. Yeah.
So I think you end up having to play conservatively or very not exactly gimmicky, but exotic for sure. You need to confuse it.
Yeah. I like the fact that we have Michael Taff in our secondary.
That's very helpful in this game.
Because Taff is not only a much better player and athlete on the field than people still can like observe. I don't know why. They just have this, former walk-on who puts on sunscreen. You must have certain athletic traits. Michael Taff moves around pretty well, guys. Like, I don't think he's a 4.3 40 guy, but he gets around the field pretty good. But his intelligence and his ability to communicate and coordinate, I think, is absolutely invaluable in this game if we're going to throw some crazy looks at Sayin.
Which they should.
Hey, do you want to switch gears and talk a little bit about our plan against Matt Patricia and the Ohio State defense?
Yeah, I think this one, I know you have some work coming up on this. I've been trying to deep dive this on my own. And this is one of the more fascinating. I don't think this game needed this to be fascinating, but it is a major additional fascination about this game that they have Matt Patricia coordinating the defense, and we're not entirely sure what that means.
That's a great point. And also, really going big picture, did you ever think we'd say the words North Carolina head coach Bill Belichick and Ohio State defensive coordinator Matt Patricia?
No.
I didn't have that in my football bingo card.
No, even like the latter was becoming more believable with some of his flops, but he sure landed on his feet. I mean, to get arguably the best defensive coordinator job in the country, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about this, because one of the things that is clear about Steve Sarkisian, if you give him an entire offseason to plan your defense, it probably isn't going to go great for you, particularly if you're a pretty tendency-laden defense. And, of course, the most obvious example of that was 2023 in Tuscaloosa. That was really sort of the announcement of the Texas program has fundamentally shifted in its nature from, they're on the rise, maybe Sark's getting this going, to, wow, they just went into Tuscaloosa and beat Bama. And obviously, Sark coached against Nick Saban. Nick Saban has a tendency-laden defense. And Sark did sort of a masterclass in how to attack that defense, particularly late in that game, right? When the calls started to come together. Fast forward 1 year. We have a huge matchup against the Michigan defense loaded with NFL talent, former Baltimore Ravens DC Wink Martindale. But coming into that game, I'll note that both you and I said, hey, we're going to be fine. Wink Martindale was pushed out of the NFL in part because he was so predictable and so tendency laden. Steve Sarkisian went and watched some Ravens film, put together a game plan, and it was over at halftime. Why is it going to be different when we play Ohio State and Matt Patricia?
Well, he's not been like a solely responsible defensive coordinator without other context, even in the NFL, in a while. Like even like his recent year with the Eagles, he was like an advisor, and then he like took over, but he had to work within the confines of what was installed and what they already had. And then he hasn't coached in college in a very long time.
He was the GA at Syracuse, to be clear, which is not which ain't coaching.
So
it's like film cut ups and getting people coffee.
So you're talking like, and the producer says 2018 to 20 was the last time he was a DC with the Lions. He was the head coach.
He was the head coach. Yeah, he was not the DC. The last time he was a DC was 2016 in New England under the tutelage of Bill Belichick, where he did a very good job. But as with the Belichick tree, you're not sure who can thrive on their own away from the root. He was with the Lions. He did have a significant impact on their defense, a negative one. Famously, former Longhorn Quandre Diggs, not a big fan of Matt Patricia. But what's interesting, Ian, is if you listen to Matt Patricia in interviews or you see him at like coaches clinics, it's very impressive. I mean, he knows ball. The product on the field doesn't reflect that knowledge. And I think that's going to be interesting. Here's the bigger point, in my opinion. The whole point of the Patriot way, particularly on defense, is that it's like Bruce Lee's no way. Like the best fighting system is all fighting systems, and you employ whatever's best useful to take down that opponent. We're talking about a coaching philosophy where they have the balls, frankly, to roll out a 6-1 defense for the Super Bowl against Sean McVay's Rams. Like for all the marbles, they decide to roll out a defense they've never run, they've never shown, and they decided to drill it and roll it out 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, and they win the game with it single-handedly.
Yeah. Dominated.
This is the same coaching tree that says, hey, we're not going to run our stuff. We're not going to run our system against the greatest show on turf Rams. We think Marshall Faulk is the entire fulcrum of your offense, and we're going to build a defense specifically around stopping Marshall Faulk, and then we'll just take whatever lumps we take elsewhere. And they go out and they shut down one of the greatest offenses in NFL history. I don't need to get into all the various Colts, Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison matchups against the Patriots, where very infrequently did the Colts get the better of New England. And New England had novel game plans in all those games. So my long beleaguered point here, Ian, is if you think Sark can just dial up some old Matt Patricia film and have a game plan, Matt Patricia is going to be game planning us. We're not going to be game planning him. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's what we think. That's probably what he'll do. He probably has a fair bit of leeway under Ryan Day. I don't know how much leeway he has with those assistants that irritated Knowles to the point of leaving.
No, Ohio State Deep State?
The Ohio State Deep State. They got like James Laurinaitis is the linebackers coach. Larry Johnson's been the D-line coach for like 20 years or something. So
14 years. They took him from Penn State, famously. Go on.
Yeah, he was a big deal there too.
Yeah.
I think you're right that that's what Patricia is going to want to do. And I think what you're suggesting is right, that we don't know exactly how effective he'll be at implementing that kind of style with college students.
Yes.
And then I add the concern that we don't know how effective he'll be implementing that style with the Ohio State Deep State. Plus, he added recently, did you see he added another Belichick assistant?
to help him, like have another voice in the room to shout down these dudes.
Yeah. Now, I think Sark has been studying up the NFL tape. This makes me a little nervous. I've seen Sark get fooled before. Kirby Smart ate his lunch in that big matchup last year. And Sam Pittman, of all people, completely fooled him in 2021. Remember that?
It wasn't Pittman, but it was his DC.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not wrong. Was it Odom? Was it Odom still there for that?
Yeah.
Okay, we got fooled by Odom. That's much more. That's less bad.
So, hey, that's an important point. Sark has said publicly, I love coaching against defenses with rules because I know how to twist those rules against themselves. And they said, well, who do you hate coaching against? And he said, novel defensive schemes devised like that week for us. Like they haven't shown any of these tendencies before. And I don't know what the rules are. It's indecipherable to me. And I have to figure it out in game. That not only showed up last year famously against Georgia, to a lesser extent, it showed up against us with Arkansas. Travis Williams, the DC at Arkansas, he's kind of famous for just devising a game plan each week for whoever they're playing. And sometimes that lets Arkansas upset Tennessee and Josh Heupel, and they shut down the veer and shoot completely. Sometimes he gets 63 scored on him by Ole Miss. But against us, he kind of ran a junk defense. It was kind of effective. And Quinn Ewers helped it become more effective because he had a couple of miscues. But I think that's the thing Sark doesn't like. And I think there's going to be some cat and mouse in this game where he's going to try to figure out what Patricia is doing. I think there's some breadcrumbs where we can figure out what Patricia is going to do. And it doesn't have to do with Matt Patricia and his NFL background. It has to do with Steve Belichick, son of Bill, who was the defensive coordinator at Washington last year. Washington, if those of you didn't watch them, had one of the best passing defenses in college football with very minimal talent. And basically, they finished ranked 29th in the country in FEI, Advanced Analytics defense, with, I would say, probably the 50th best talent. Like Steve Belichick vastly overachieved their talent level. And there are some things that he was able to translate from the Patriots to the college level. One thing that has been a criticism of Matt Patricia historically is that he tends to overcomplicate things. So the Patriots love to run a lot of combo coverages, meaning they're showing cover one, but it's actually cover four, or they're running man on one side of the field and they're actually running cover four on the other side of the field. Or they're running man under and they're running some kind of complex zone scheme that you don't know the rules to behind it. And they do a lot of stuff with dropping people. They do a lot of just common sense things. You were telling me about their double mic plug blitz. Can you tell the audience about that? It's kind of ingenious and it's so obvious, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah, the Patriots had this famous blitz for a long time where they would bring both inside linebackers over either shoulder of the center. Like they're both set up like they're going to blitz. And then one would be a hook dropper and one would be an actual blitzer. And they would decide who is who based on which way the center turned. So if the center turned to the left, that guy's going. If he turns to the right, this guy's going. And so all these different protections that are designed to shade, they were going to be right no matter what.
And I want to encourage you guys to join Inside Texas because I'm about to drop an article where I talk about some of the things that I think we will see that are more easily schematically translatable to a college athlete. Steve Belichick, forget the nepotism stuff. That guy did an awesome job for Washington last year. And obviously, he's a really good teacher because he was able to take some core Patriot concepts, translate them to the college game, and then he knew which ones to leave alone. Meaning, if you don't have Teddy Bruschi, if you don't have like some of their key like old hand safeties that coordinate stuff or make calls, just stay away. Like this is advanced level defense. Let's not try to teach the college guys this. I think that's Sark. I think will find his approach more profitable watching some Steve Belichick for clues on how Matt Patricia is going to defend us. One of those clues is this. Steve Belichick reasoned, if I take away passing game explosives, I don't care how many run yards I give up within reason, because I can tighten up in the run game on 3rd and 1 and in the red zone.
Yeah.
What I can't stop is a
We've only
70
been
yard.
saying this for like 20 years, Paul.
Sorry?
Years. We've only been saying this for like 15 years.
We've only been saying it for a long time, and no one wants to listen because you must stop the run at all costs. But if you have a limited defense and you have to make a choice, stop the explosive passing game above all. Last year, the Washington Huskies, their longest completion that they allowed was 42 yards. And they allowed only 5.7 yards per attempt, which is very, very low. Yeah. Now, 9 of the 12 teams they played ran for 150 yards or more. So that's not great. It doesn't feel good when people run on you. Like a 7-yard run doesn't feel great the way like a 7-yard pass feels.
Yeah.
But 60-yard touchdown passes is how Sark wants to score points, if you'll let him. I think we're going to see a game plan which says we're not going to allow arch throw bombs. We are going to say, can Texas run the ball on us? Can Texas run the ball in the red zone? Can Texas convert 3rd and 2, handing the ball off? If the answer to that is yes, we're winning in Columbus. If the answer to that is no, it's going to be a real interesting game.
One other clue I'd love to add is your favorite personnel is policy.
Yes.
There's only so much they can do with the actual players they have. And there's going to be some players that we might find analogs for from like the Patriots past or other. Like, to me, Caleb Downs is Patrick Chung.
Yeah.
And if they don't use him like they use Patrick Chung, I would be kind of surprised.
How did they use Patrick Chung? Because I don't think that's like common knowledge.
Patrick Chung basically was like, I think every team should do this now. He basically like correlated to the tight end. They would sub-package their defense to make sure that Chung was basically always the strong safety and always matched up with a tight end. Because then it allowed him to be around the box. He was like 215 pounds, 5'11" or something. Amazing tackler, super smart, good closing speed. Not like a dominant coverage guy. If he's around the box, he's going to wreck what you're trying to do, and it's hard to account for him. You do that by just tying him to the tight end in the formation. And if you have to play nickel or dime to keep him near the box, then you do that. And if you don't, then you don't. So I think that's what they're going to do with Downs. We've seen a couple quotes, or I've seen a couple quotes from Patricia floating around about how he loves having Downs near the box. And they might use him at nickel in some circumstances so that he's around there. So that's what you're going to get.
Well, if you watch the Ohio State spring game, Caleb Downs played a lot of single high safety away from the box. He's the guy up top. That's bait, as they say. The Tom Hardy, put in the Tom Hardy meme here of like, that's bait. That was for our eyes. That was for Texas to see, because that ain't how they're going to play Caleb Downs. And if it is how they play Caleb Downs, hook him, baby. I think Sark can take him out of the game with that alignment. One thing that was Jim Knowles' genius was that he created a game plan with Caleb Downs such that you could not take him out of the game. He was going to be relevant to your game plan, irrespective of what your game plan was, because he was lined up in this weird 6.5 yards off the ball, quasi safety middle linebacker position with all of the Ohio State defensive linemen, with the ends lined up in a 4-eye or like a tight 5, and then the defensive tackles clogging, and Downs just running around between the hashes completely free. No one's getting on him. Is there any chance Matt Patricia runs Jim Knowles' defense, or does ego disallow that?
I would have said no. I wouldn't even know if he knew how it worked. But now I'm remembering that early against Washington State, they did run a sort of flyover thing that was just like it. So they might. He might. I don't think that they're going to do that, but it's possible. That was like the law. I've been waiting for that test case for a long time. because basically they use downs like Iowa State has used their various big safeties for years.
Yeah.
And I've always been like, this is really effective. But just imagine if instead of like a 3-star, 220-pound Iowa boy, it was like a 5-star athlete. And well, we got to see it, and it was ugly.
Well, we saw that on that goal line pitch. So Trey Wisner, actually that call, if Caleb Downs doesn't make a really good open field tackle and diagnose that play, might have scored.
You're talking about that pitch, ill-fated pitch?
Famous pitch. But the fact is, Caleb Downs was there to make that play, and that's why he's there. Yeah, I think it's a super interesting matchup. Another interesting thing. So getting back to tie up the larger point that I was making, Steve Sarkisian went into Tuscaloosa and he went into Ann Arbor already knowing the answers to the test.
Yeah.
We just had to execute it and get the right call at the right time to match the right defensive call. We're not going into Columbus really knowing what the test is on. Steve Sarkisian's going to have to figure that out. By the way, he knows this. This is not a news flash. Like, I'm not giving you like, ooh, what an insight. I bet Sark never thought that. Sark is trying to figure out Matt Patricia's likely game plan. I will say that the thing that might be useful is to watch some Steve Belichick Washington Husky defense, because all those Patriots guys talk. All of them have a good relationship. The ones that haven't been exorcised from the family, like who's the Jets guy that revealed the Patriot filming?
Yeah, Eric Mangini.
Mangini. He can't come to the Patriots reunions anymore because
No.
He called out Bill Belichick cheating, which is a great offense. But I think Patricia is going to talk to Belichick, younger Belichick, and say, hey, man, what translated, what didn't? I think there's some breadcrumbs in that Washington Huskies defense. Come join Inside Texas, and I'm going to break it down. And that post is going to go up today or tomorrow.
I've been looking forward to this one.
Yeah. And I'm going to have also the downsides, because you could introduce complexity. You could introduce a lot of that kind of stuff. This is a new defense to him. This is a new coordinator. And does he have the right personnel in the right spots to communicate stuff? I'm not talking about how many stars that player has. I'm not talking about their recruiting pedigree. I'm talking about, do they have that awareness? Do they see the game like Rodney Harrison and Lawyer Malloy, for the Patriots, and they say, get over there, and Teddy Bruschi's making like 3 line calls right before the snap. I don't know if they have those guys. Patricia doesn't know if he has those guys. And Sark is damn sure going to find out if they have those guys based on his play calls. But I do think that there's going to be a cat and mouse between the Ohio State defense and the Texas offense, which will be unlike anything we've seen maybe in the Sarkisian regime.
I can't wait for this game.
I can't wait. Bart Scott, can't wait. Let's go. Ian, is there anything you want to say to the good people before we part?
One other thing that the Patriots are always good at is that while they had enormous complexity, their individual game plans would be simple.
Yes.
It'd be like, we're going to take this guy out and this guy out, and we have maybe a complex call X and a complex call Y, but that's all we're doing this week. And that is, I think, tricky with college students. We'll see. But so there's some layers to this, and it's going to be very interesting to see how well Patricia translates those.
Well, the deep danger of a combo coverage, Ian, at the college level is that you run neither coverage correctly.
Yeah.
And so the thing that you're calling to prevent the 70-yard hookup actually gets Wingo free, and he's running uncovered down the sideline.
Especially when they're running across the formation.
Over. That over fade or that over, right?
Yeah.
That is something that we're pretty sure Arch Manning is going to throw a good ball, and that's going to be 6 points. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about how they might use Arch's legs to punish any sort of Patriot-style defense, because one thing the Patriots defenses can't do is account for everything. They're going to pick 1 or 2 things and then make you play left-handed. But what if you have an offense, and what if you have a quarterback that says, cool, we're just going to have the quarterback keep it around the end and get 12 yards. And we're going to do that 3 times What's your adjustment?
What a great sneak peek into next week.
What a great sneak peek into next week. We hope you guys are on the edges of your chairs. For Ian Boyd, I'm Paul Wadlington Sayed. Come join Inside Texas.